February 14. Wolf Rescue, Story 1. Justinian raced through the corridor, her feet sliding as she took the corners too fast for safety. Any slower, though, and the howling mob behind her would catch up. She had to find a way out of the complex and back into Lunar One proper. If she didn't, she was dead. A shout sounded from behind her, followed by a loud bang and a chunk of the wall spraying shards as it became a small round crater. If she didn't need her very human hands, she'd shift to wolf form. 4 legs was so much faster than 2. But she couldn't. She needed her hands to unlock the doors and activate access panels. And the hunters were gaining. She dodged right, almost sobbing with relief when she saw the sign she'd been looking for. Stairs. Justinian lashed out, wrapping her hand around the handle and turning it, relieved beyond words when it shifted and the door swung open. Using her momentum and her grip on the door, she spun herself out of the corridor and onto the landing. Kicking the door closed behind her, Justinian glanced back for a lock, but there wasn't one, which left her with a choice: up or down. The sound of a door being kicked open below her gave her just one choice: up. With no doors in the stairwell and a dire need to make some distance before she tried to leave it, Justinian slid into her wolf form and bolted for the landing above. Behind her, the door slammed open and another shout rang out. "Stop right there!" Like hell she would. She bounded forward, taking 4 steps in a single leap and making the turn with a scrabble of claws to reach for the next flight. It didn't take long for the sound of her pursuers to fade, or for the stairs to run out. Justinian stared at the door. An airlock? She looked around. There weren't any other choices. No doors to other rooms, no cabinets or suit lockers, nothing. She waited, panting for breath, trying to think. Maybe if she ran down to the last. Footsteps sounded on the stairs below her. Not that, then. She backed into a corner close to the door and shifted back into human form. Her wolf speed would do her no good, and maybe they'd give a human a chance to surrender. Or not. She remembered the shot fired earlier. She could always hope one of the others reached her first. The footsteps came closer, 2, maybe 3 flights down. She might still make the landing below. It was better than doing her pursuer's job for them. Justinian straightened up and pushed off the wall. Maybe if she was quick. She slid close to the railing and looked over, trying to see just how much time she might have. Seeing nothing, she moved past the airlock door. Or she tried to. Having it swing open and block her path sent her backing up against the wall, just as there was a shout from below and the footsteps began to run. From that angle, maybe it was a good thing that it blocked access to the stairwell. Justinian eyed the railing. She could always jump. There was a small chance she'd make the steps on the other side. It got smaller when she thought about trying to do it without smearing herself against the wall on arrival. What was more worrying than either the leap or the human's first hunters coming up the stairs was the figure standing in the airlock door, hand extended. "Come with me," it said. Justinian glanced at the stairs and then looked back. The figure waited, letting her figure it out for herself. In the end, she put her hand in its open palm and let it pull her into the lock. It also pulled her tight against its chest, turning its back on the stairs as the airlock door started to close. Another shot rang out and her rescuer jerked. Justinian twisted in its Justinian twisted in its grasp, but it wouldn't let go. Almost there, and it didn't release her until the airlock door had sealed behind her. Then, "I've got her." The door sealed behind them, and the outer door began to open. Justinian shot a panicked look at it and then up at her rescuer. "I'm not wearing a suit," she said. Then more urgently, "Make it stop. I don't have a suit." She broke free from her rescuer's grasp in time to see the short umbilical linking the airlock to a waiting shuttle. The sight of it made her freeze, and then she turned to the figure who'd grabbed her. She was in time to see it sag to its knees. "You want to give an old woman a hand up?" it asked, lifting its helmeted head toward her. Justinian heard the pain in its voice and hurried forward, looping her arm around her rescuer's shoulders and hauling it forward. With a groan, the figure came with her, and together they stumbled into the umbilical and along it. They were met at the other end by more suited figures, one tall and one stocky. The figures dragged them past and then hit the controls to seal and recall the umbilical. Hang on, this is going to be a fast flight out of here. It was? Justinian looked from one to the other as the umbilical clunked home and the airlock door slid shut. It was a fast ride, and it ended with the shuttle hard docking with a ship boosting out of the lunar orbit, with the woman who'd rescued her ending up in a med bay, grateful her suit had held against the stub-nosed bullet, and not so grateful for the bruising. The two men went with her, Justinian trailing along behind. She didn't recognize either of them, even with their helmets off. Tall looked at Stocky. You know we're not going to be allowed back there, right? Stocky shrugged. We have other ships. He turned to look at Justinian. Welcome aboard, kid. We've got some folks that are pretty anxious to meet you. They did? The look on her face made him laugh. Sure we do. Threatened to hijack the ship if we left you behind. They reached the entry to the observation deck and went through, and Justinian felt her heart lift. Her parents had threatened to hijack a ship? An entire ship? With people in it who were rescuing wolves? Judging from the weapons in their hands and the looks on the faces of the captain and crew kneeling before them, her mum and dad had done exactly that, and her boyfriend had done everything in his power to help them. She took in the situation in a single wondering glance, and then went to kneel in front of the captain. I. She looked past him to where her parents were handing their weapons to Tall and Stocky. Somehow, I'm sorry, didn't seem to cut it. She tried again. Please. And again the words failed her. In desperation, she shifted to wolf form and let her wolf say what her human self couldn't find the words for. She lowered herself to the floor and flipped onto her back, her tail curved up over her belly and a whine curling from between her lips. To her surprise, he laughed and ruffled the fur on her chest and stomach, patting her head as she flipped and sat leaning into him, as her wolf tried to wash his face with her tongue. It's okay, kiddo. I won't be spacing anyone today. He glanced over his shoulder at the trio of semi-defiant wolves behind him, his hands absently stroking her head and shoulders. Although the stars know I should. Justinian dabbed his nose with her tongue and then shifted to human form and hugged him. Thank you.